Feeling thirsty for knowledge? Hackers on the Rocks is the podcast that mixes refreshing conversation with potent cybersecurity insights. Serving up these insights with a twist, we pair a different software vulnerability with a refreshing cocktail recipe each episode. Hello world and greetings all around. Our opening segment is called Get Handle Information, and here to bring you today's drink, our guest, Reanna Schultz. Reanna,
hi.
I can hear you. I can see you. I don't know if it works both ways though.
It's okay. It's like a, I would say a blind date, but it's not. So great podcast now.
Yeah, we're doing it live. All right, guest.
I guess to start off with, I got a fancy glass for this episode.
It does look
Went
fancy.
to
Yeah,
the what?
it does look fancy. I see it.
Here, I don't have a blurred background, but here's the influencer hand.
Yeah, stupid is as
I
stupid
got
does.
this. Well, I went to the Mall of America. It was my first time being there. And I went through all the Nickelodeon rides. I'm pretty sure I had a kid sneeze a bunch of boogers on me. It was a great experience. And you gotta go to like the Bubba Gump restaurant. And I got a basket of fries. And that's all I ordered, and water. And my waitress, bless his heart, you could tell he was a young kid, and he was carrying drinks and spilt one on me. That's not how I got the free glass. That's how I got free French fries. But I went into the gift store and I bought a magnet, and they're like, "Oh, hey, we're giving away glasses. Here you go." And I was like, "Cool." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I was like, "This isn't gonna fit in my suitcase to go home with."
This
Anyways,
is fantastic, though. You
you
go
know,
to the
like,
restaurant, you get free drink, free on you, free
yeah,
fries, and a
yeah.
free cup. Yeah.
Yeah, 10 out of 10, best like, I gave them a full rating on Yelp, like 5 out of 5, great
Yeah.
service, great accommodation, 10 out of 10, recommend for your friend. Just make sure you bring an extra change of clothes because, you know, things could get spicy at the Bubba Gump in Mall of America.
You're in a shopping mall. You don't need to bring extra clothes. There's plenty there for you to choose from.
See, that's how they do that, you know? You go to Bubba Gump, you ruin your outfit, you have to go shop for a new outfit. See, they got like a thing
This is a
going on.
conspiracy. This is the hot topic people just going wild. I don't know.
Anyways, I'm drinking Diet Coke, so.
All right. All right. So let's start there. I think we've started this episode seeing a little bit about the personality that I know you to have. Explain Diet Coke. I feel like that's such a bland drink when you could have had.
Thank you
like,
for calling
any
me
crazy
bland,
concoction.
Evan.
No. I said your bland drink does not match your spirited personality.
Sorry, my sodies aren't good enough for this episode.
That is the second time I've heard you use the word sodies in like the last 10 minutes.
I'm an
So why?
adult and I drink
seriously, so
sodies
why-
like a
why-
professional.
So why Diet Coke? What's the thing there?
My husband, I guess, you know, like they have like different types of like donations and stuff like that. The company he's worked for, and I won't disclose it, but the company he works for, they have free sodies and juices in the break room. And so, like, unlike, you know, how we are supposed to donate food to food drives and stuff, the company donates their sodies to their associates. So anyway, sometimes my husband treats me really nice and brings home a sody for me in quantities. I joke with him. I was like, when you call it a case, I was like, you should stop. And I said, when you're calling it a cube, and he's like, what's a cube? I'm like, you know how you go to Costco's and you go to Sam's and you buy like cubes of sodies? I was like, you shouldn't be bringing home cubes of sodies. And he goes, why? It's free. And I'm like, that's not the point, man.
I mean,
But yeah. So
you know.
anyways, so I'm
the
trying
employer
to
puts
get
them
through the
out for the
cube.
employees. It's a perk. It's a perk of the job. Yeah,
It's culture. It's culture. That's what HR would say. It's part of the culture. And I'm like, I'm so glad to be embracing the culture in my house now. But that's okay. Yeah. Anyways,
All right, so
we're
now
sad for a bit. Yeah.
now you're addicted to Diet Coke. Yeah, I
Diet
guess
sodies, yes.
diet. So I can't bring myself to say that word without losing my mind. So, all right. As is tradition on the show, you've got a glass, I've got a glass. Cheers.
Cheers.
You know, as a
It just
non-soda
tastes
or
better in like
sodies
a
drinker, this is a thing. You know, I don't know if I'm able to finish this. Might
We're
have
not
to
even, we're here to talk cyber at some point. So
Oh, is that what we're here to do? All right.
yeah.
All right. Before we talk cyber, let's talk you. So while we're drinking, can you maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the research community?
Oh my goodness. Little bit about myself. I used to actually hate sodies. Besides that, I grew up in a very small town. I joke that there were more cows than people, and I actually wanted to be a state highway patrol woman. Like that was my career aspirations, and it worked out for me. I am 5'2", like super tiny. I am not like I can't imagine me tackling a 6-foot man on the side of a highway. So when I went to college and stuff, I had accidentally taken I say accidentally, it was the only class offered that semester for me to quote unquote graduate on time. And it was a Python programming class. And I had fallen in love with that class. I knew nothing about programming. I went to a small town, rural part of Missouri, and like we didn't have STEM. My STEM class, I kid you not, Evan, I was doing a talk at a high school and the kids were like, "So what did you have for like computer classes?" And I was all like, "Well, we learned how to like balance a checkbook." And one kid's like, "What's a checkbook?" And I was like, "Oh my God." And I was like, and then another class we took was keyboard typing. And they're like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Where you learn to type on the keyboard?" And they're like, "That was a class?" And I was like, "I'm officially old."
I
Like
remember.
there gets to a point in your life, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be on one of those like YouTube videos where they make fun of the older generation. Oh my gosh, I'm an old generation now.
Yeah, you're.
So,
Yeah.
anyways, I had no idea, long story short, anything about computer science, cybersecurity. Like, I didn't know anything about it. And the only thing I knew was my mom. She was a very, very like helicopter parent's not the word, but she had like very strong principles in her house. And one of them was you do not add strangers on Facebook. Like she knew that. And bless her heart, she calls AI A1. But she told me not to add strangers on Facebook. And then she told me, because I used to play Call of Duty on Xbox, and like you could, play with random strangers and stuff like that. And she's like, do not tell anyone your personal information. Do not send pictures to any random people you know. Like you don't know who's on the other side. And I was just like, whatever. Fast forward, right? Take this Python class. I fell in love with it. Absolutely fell in love with it. Switched to computer science. I was actually pursuing to do like website front end
Mhm.
development. And then my professor, she was like, "Oh, hey, we're rolling out a cybersecurity major." And I was like, "What's cybersecurity?" She goes, "Yeah, just enroll in it." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. What's cybersecurity?" And she goes, "Yeah, just enroll in the class." I'm like, "Cool. What is cybersecurity?" It's took the class, fell in love with the fact that like not only can you solve a problem in a creative way, but you can also break someone's solution with your theory. And I was like, this is like basically a paid internet troll. So sign me up for this because like what a great job. And yeah, it turns out like my mom was kind of right about some things. Don't talk to random people, but then, here I am now talking to
To
random
a
people
random
as like
person. Thanks.
part of my career. So like every single time I like do like a podcast or anything, I always have to feel like I apologize to my mom. She watches every she's such a huge cheerleader. Mom, I'm sorry. I am talking to an internet stranger on camera and having a sody with him.
Using real names. Yeah. It's the my oh my, have the times changed. All right, let's take a quick break and then we'll get into it. This episode is brought to us by Cordyceps Systems, specialized AI and data processing solutions for specialized customers. All right, this next segment is called The Distillery, where Reanna and I are going to enjoy our diet sodies and chat about threat hunting. Reanna, let's start with the basics. How would you define threat hunting?
I would say, oh my gosh, I hate Evan. You just started off with a loaded question for me.
You can answer this in any way you want. Take the
And we're
conversation.
cutting. No, I'm kidding. No, so like threat hunting is literally what it sounds like. It's hunting for threats. And there's different types of layers to do this for a business. People often are like, oh, I threat hunt or like I pay a vendor to do that. And that some vendors, they do offer threat hunting as a service. But I tell people, especially if you have a built in security program already, like those people really know what's not normal with a network compared to a set of eyes that doesn't live and breathe in it. Now, don't get me wrong, second set of eyes absolutely does help, but the people that are in the network 24/7, they're going to know what's not normal and what is. And there is a fantastic thing out there called the Pyramid of Pain. And it sounds like a pyramid scheme, but it's not. It's just painful. And it has different layers throughout this pyramid. And I tell people if you're really wanting to like just start foundationally in threat hunting or detection engineering. Start with the base of the pyramid. And this is where we have indicators of compromise. You have your IPs, your hashes, your domains, things that can easily be searched on in the network, but these are also things that can easily be changed by a threat actor. And then as you go up, you're going away from the indicators of compromise and now you're talking more behavioral. So how like an APT group might behave or how a specific malware family might behave because especially really really sophisticated threat actors that will sell their ransom and their malware as a service where other hackers will buy it. It's basically an underground pyramid scheme. Everyone just makes money off of each other and they all like fist bump at end of the day and they just wait for the FBI to show up somehow and take over breach forums again. Essentially, as you kind of go through this, I like to compare threat hunting a lot of the times to Criminal Minds or like NCIS or something like that where they're trying to find like a serial criminal that commits series of crimes but they always leave or do something that's consistent, like maybe they clog the sink and leave the water on. That's their thing. Or maybe they always, that's a Home Alone reference for
I
people
got that one.
who
Yeah.
didn't take a keyboard typing class in high school. But like there's all of these things and just kind of like very sophisticated malware families or very sophisticated threat actors, they have their own special signature. And so a lot of the times these are things that are very difficult to change, but they're also very difficult to hunt on because you have to go through different forms of an attack to get to that specific signature to know, oh, this is an association of something bigger than just a drive-by download of something random. So anyways, Evan, long-winded story. Hunting threats is what threat hunting is.
So it's funny you say that you're essentially looking for signatures, right? Those criminal minds, those patterns of behavior, the leaky faucet in the sink kind of a thing, right? Because I always thought of threat hunting as more like proactive than reactive. But
Mhm.
like, help me reconcile that because it seems like you need to know what to look for to hunt.
Yeah.
At the same time, you're trying to find the thing that, if it was easy to find, like a tool would have just done it for you. So, like, help me understand this. I guess maybe the process of threat hunting.
Yeah. I always tell people you have to start with knowing what you know already. And then threat hunting is going to be the other side. It's finding the unknown. And
Mm.
this is where a lot of the times like a lot of blue teamers, cyber defenders out there, they will have a joke of like, "Oh, that's what keeps me up at night is you know, not knowing what's going on in my own business." And there's a lot of truth to that. And I tell people, I walk in and this is advice I carry with me and I give to anyone that I come across with. And I say, I wake up every day and I assume the company I'm with is breached. The question is, am I going to find it or are they just living in the network undetected? And that's what really threat hunting comes into play because most of the time, and hopefully all businesses have this, like you have your I would say your foundational security principles. You might have an antivirus, an EDR. You probably already have a firewall. If you have MFA, a lot of times that's standard now. You probably have also something for email security, like Microsoft has some default out of the box stuff. All of these things that are also used as IT mechanics, they're also security mechanisms as well. And so when people are looking for IT solutions, most of the time these are now packaged as a single item because it's cost
Mm.
efficient for a lot of businesses. And most of the IT tools come with some form of security configuration. And so all of these end up having things called out of the box alerts. And so, or out of the box detections. Not all the time are these 100% accurate. This is where alert fatigue comes in with a lot of people. But a lot of the times, this is kind of just allowing people to know essentially what's normal, what's not normal in their environment. How can we make this tool as accurate as possible and stuff like that. And once you really honestly you start honing in on the health of that tool, you'll realize there's a couple of people in the business that you're like, "Oh my gosh, how long have you been doing that, man?" Like
Experience matters. Well, I guess so. Speaking towards that experience, right? I've heard you now mention what sounds like work roles to me, right? I've heard threat hunters. I heard you say blue teamer. I've heard you say SOC operations staff. Are these all interchangeable, or are these different roles, different people?
that is gonna be the biggest debate of, like, probably the next, like, couple of years because and you kinda, like, will see this with a lot of, like, bigger F-50 companies here in the States, at least. They're rolling out actual detection engineering incident response, and so it's the people that come in after the triage, so, like, the threat's contained and everything. They really dissect that threat. They really try to understand the intent of it, and if it wasn't discovered, what could have happened. And so then that's where they take all of those behaviors essentially, and then they'll go and say, "Hey, do we have protection on this? Do we not have protection on that really bad stage of this process?" And especially like with even some big companies, they might not have a real mature cyber team, but a lot of the times system administrator or even like your help desk associate, they might also be wearing security hats. They might be the ones managing the SIM, or they might be the ones configuring the firewall, or whatever that case is. Or even if they do have like a SOC person or just a security person in general, I hear so many stories about the person that's just like, man, I'm writing policies, I'm doing the vulnerability management, I'm also doing the pen test, I'm doing all of these things and I didn't get a raise again this year, but now they're talking about detection engineering and it turns into like these different roles and hats becoming buzzwords for HR and hiring managers and stuff like that where honestly like you got to train the horse before you could put the cart on it. And detection engineering in my opinion is that second stage of really making a very mature defense program. You gotta start with the what's already existing before we can go and find what isn't existing.
Yeah. So, all right. So, I think two questions. You can kind of take them in order, but
No,
like,
you're only allowed one. No, I'm kidding.
no, it's my show. I can do what I want, right? But all right. So,
It's my
I
show.
think I mean, look, you have a show. You ask your questions on your show, and I'll ask my questions on mine. I think. All right. So, if I'm hearing correctly, right, you have your like. It sounds like threat hunting is there's a level of sophistication there that is maybe commensurate with a more senior level staff. Maybe like a luxury person, or a senior person, right? So, I guess the first question is then like, if I'm at an organization and I'm starting to build out a team, or maybe I have a team, like. I guess at what point, what's that inflection point where my cybersecurity program needs a threat hunting capability? And then the second part of my question, which is something you just kind of like teased too, is if we're thinking about threat hunting being a luxury, at what point does like how do you balance the need for this luxury position versus, to your point, like the regular SOC operations staff are already overwhelmed and understaffed. So like how do you ever get to a spot where you can have a threat hunting team when the basics seem to be very rarely covered?
Yeah. And these are all good questions. And like everyone who has experienced the side will probably have a different opinion and stuff. But typically when I tell people that like, hey, you probably feel like you're ready, honestly, there's never a right time to feel ready. But when you start asking the question like, why didn't the tool catch this? Why didn't the vendor catch this? Why like are like especially when you start asking those questions and then you relay it back to I would say the detection piece of this. And your detection is pretty like you might have one or two like I would say noisy alerts, right? But when you're hitting a good 70, maybe 85% um real like even like a benign positive, right? It detects the true activity, but it might be normal for the business or, it's truly like a true positive threat. So when your alerts are starting to hold weight with action and now you're asking the question, why didn't we detect this earlier? Why is this now happening? Why are we now breached? Now this is a consideration for a next level of maturity, which in my opinion, that's where detection engineering and that's where threat hunting comes, where now you're investing resources to understand targets and threats that are attacking your type of industry, or even how can we start turning this into understanding behaviors to I guess to answer your second point, it can be expensive, right? Because now we're talking about hours, we're talking about logs, we're talking about storage, we're talking about doing a gap analysis with what we can and can't protect on currently. It's going to start raising. Some people get really scared with it when they realize, oh my gosh, like there is this thing called a MITRE map, and we have 15% coverage. And that's where people are like, "Oh my gosh, we only have 15% coverage." And then that's when you kinda start, like, opening up the closet door full of skeletons. You're like, "Oh my gosh, that's a lot of skeletons." And you're like, "Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of
Yeah.
skeletons." And and, like, it doesn't happen overnight. There's a lot of, like, technical debt most likely to really start having a good, sophisticated program for detecting these threats. You gotta work with all of these different business segments to make sure that they're doing secure things. Because when you're hunting for bad things, when you're taking things that you're finding on the dark web or Telegram channels and stuff like that, you wanna make sure what you're finding is true and it's not someone being a potato on their corporate computer. And that was my corporate jargon, by the way, was calling someone a potato. But I tell people, like, once you kinda get to that point, or even if you wanna start something, like, super, super cost effective, super cheap, take your high profile people. So this might be your CEO, it could be a CFO, your C-suite executives, or even your HR people, and just start looking on open source forums, like Have I Been Pwned and stuff like that, just to see if their work email has been on any recent breaches. Because now you're gonna be asking, if they use that work email and that email has been pwned at some point, threat actor will go in and take the creds that were stolen and then sell it to a cred pack. And these are like $3 or whatever, depending on what type of creds are in it. And then other people are going to buy those cred packs. And then that's how, they start spraying or doing drive-bys, or Trojans come in where they're trying to like capture those credentials and see if they can log into other applications, and really starting with like password hygiene and stuff like that. So that's a really simple, easy way to go in. And of course, like, you can automate it. These tools have APIs and stuff like that. But again, it's a really free, easy way, and start incorporating that into your security hygiene program as well. For the SOC alert hygiene portion, that's a whole other topic. God, that's like a whole other side of the mountain.
Well, let's avoid that one for now. I think so. All right, so I'm starting to get it, right. So it does seem like there is a proactive component to this, right? It's not just, I guess, if I'm trying to understand the distinction, right? Your entry level blue teamers, SOC staffers are going to look at all the alerts and kind of triage what's going on, and it seems like the threat hunting side, in part, is, hey, there's other things, like there are sensors picking up data, but not necessarily alerting to a problem.
Yeah.
And the knowledge for that, it sounds like you mentioned a lot of places. I'm going to ask. Typically on our show, we like to try and define every. I can't go back and try and define all the words used, but like you talked about dark web, Telegram, and Have I Been Pwned. I think dark web and Telegram are safe for now, but like, can you talk about this Have I Been Pwned resource? And then
Yeah.
just before you get into that, I think it seems like, to the point is, like, there's some research. Your threat hunting team needs to know where to go, like these resources, Telegram and Have I Been Pwned and whatnot, to do it as they do, right? And you can't hunt what you can't see. And I guess after you define what is Have I Been Pwned, are there, I guess, maybe what are the key data sources that a hunt team should rely on or could rely on?
Yeah, besides, would say kinda sneaking your way underground and things like that, I always tell people a good place to start with is your vendors. And we can go in from, like, vendors to at-home projects right now. Your vendors, they're the people pushing security updates, security signatures to a lot of your security alerts and security tools already. I tell people, if you don't meet with your vendors monthly or bi-monthly, you need to start doing that, because this allows you to have health checks. This allows you to have vendor and customer relationships. This allows you to be like, hey, what are you guys seeing? Hey, do you guys offer a threat feed service? Is it included in our package or contract already? And people don't really think about asking those questions, because they're like, okay, cool, we pay license, see ya. And then that's the last time you'll hear from the vendor until you have a support ticket or something happen. And even if you have MSPs or other security services, really sit down with them once a month and just be like, hey, what are you guys seeing with other industries like us. Like, you have all of these customers, like, can you kind of tell us trends, hey, what's the cost of you guys offering a threat hunt service to us? Do you have recommendations? And just kind of getting an eye of what's going on in your business. You don't really have to have your own team essentially to kind of threat hunt within. You can probably service it out for once a year and just see what pops up. Now, open source stuff, I tell people, I'm like, you have to be engaged in the community. You have to be engaged, because the trends and threats that I saw 2 weeks ago, it's already changed. The underground has already changed its market scheme. Like, I always joke that there's tariffs going on underground and they're changing what their goal is. But whatever the motivation that they have, you have to be engaged in the community. And there's a lot of cool advisories out there, like the FBI has advisories, other countries and their local governing security teams, they have their advisories. They're free to the public. Really get on like LinkedIn, Blue Sky, and X, and just follow very recognizable security researchers. If you just type in malware analysis, cyber research, you will just dive into a rabbit hole of things that you didn't know existed. Another thing like Bleeping Computer, the Hacker News, these things, like, you can have RSS feeds set up for free through an API call to go back into your own business. And again, right, most of the time they have indicators already. So you can just hunt on these indicators and just kind of start seeing what's going on and then learning more about what's normal and what's not normal. There is a cool home lab project. I did this last year, and it's something really cool. You could do it with AI, and this is kind of like the fun, cool piece of AI, I would say, with security defense. So on Discord has their own AI bots and stuff like that, and even Chat GPT has this offering. But I was able to pull down RSS feeds for like Hacker News, Bleeping Computer, the Cyber Information Security Advisory, all of this stuff, and post it to my AI bots or even Chat GPT. And so I've been doing this for a year now. And I have to, like, there's some filter words that need to come out of this, because it's learned to like cuss, because they'll parse the messages from like threat actors and stuff. So I have to like tell it to not be so spicy with me. so, but it's able to parse out the indicators for me with these articles, and then also create detection or threat hunting queries for me. So it's given me like YARA rules, it's giving me Snort, it's giving me Splunk, whatever I can use, and then I could spit it out. You could take it another step further, use those feeds and create security awareness messages for your business, because again, those people, if they're going to see something, they're either going to ignore it or they're going to report it, or don't even know it exists. So
So I'm glad you talked about AI, and that was I know that's a hobby interest of yours, so I'm glad you kind of brought it up without me having to probe on it. You mentioned the outputs of your AI bots that you are producing. Again, this is more of a quick definition, but are producing YARA rules. I think you said Snort signatures and Splunk queries, I think were the three. Can you just real quick, just for our audience, kind of explain real quickly, like what is YARA, what is Snort, and what is Splunk?
yeah, for sure. Just kind of keep it high level.
Recognizing there are textbooks on all of those things.
There's so many try hack me rooms on this too, and I believe most of them, for like, even in Kibana, you can go in and practice these different queries completely for free. They have a whole threat hunting section that's pretty decent in my opinion, but it goes through these different signatures or these different queries on how to create your own. I don't want to use the word rules, but it's almost telling, I would say, an appliance how to look for XYZ. And, like Splunk, for example, it pulls it into a SIM. And so you have all of this different data sources in your business going to a centralized pane of glass. That's a lot of data to sift through. And so having these queries to be able to pick out specific traits that you're looking for, it definitely helps. Same thing with like Snort. It's really great for other types of like data coming in, maybe through network or stuff like that. So it's just really, really important to kind of know which queries can be best for your environment.
Fair. I guess maybe kind of returning back to the implementation part. I guess knowing what you do on like day job wise, like What advice would you have for a manager that's considering like starting a threat hunting program, but maybe isn't sure where to begin?
Well, take PTO and think about your life choices. No,
Lots and
I'm
lots
totally
of Coke
kidding.
Zero, everybody. Lots and lots of Coke
Lots and lots
Zero.
of sodies at our
Yeah.
diet.
By the cube.
By the cube. Oh my god. So, no, like I said, kinda like the beginning of this podcast, really just kinda know what's in your environment. There's really awesome frameworks out there. Start with training. MITRE has free training for threat hunting, detection engineering, stuff like that. It's YouTube videos and stuff like that, but it gives you insight to what you are asking for. And especially with security, if we're talking about management level, you are talking money. And this is where politics and the business come in because a lot of people don't know this. And if you do, congrats. But if you don't, I really hope you're sitting down because cyber doesn't make revenue for companies most of the time, unless you work for an MSSP. And I get people that are like, oh, well, technically we save money. And I was like, yeah, but we're not making money because every single time something happens, it's costing the business a couple of zeros with commas, followed by a few ones and a few nines. Like it's not good. And then now we're talking about potential brand and reputation and stuff like that. And so people get so wide grip knuckle with the budget for cyber. And I have to like always tell people that are really thinking about expanding into this and they're running, especially with what's going on right now. We're probably going to have a few years like this, in my opinion, but companies are really not investing the way they should in their cyber programs because they look at it as, oh, we can outsource, we can do this, we can just our IT person is now cyber and people are like, what is this? And I always tell hiring managers, think about the resources you do have and then how can you slowly sprinkle threat hunting or detection engineering into your existing processes? And maybe this is as simple as, Have I Been Pwned, where it's a repository of compromised accounts with breaches throughout time, or something as simple as that. Maybe it's pulling down RSS feeds for free and just having a script to parse, indicators and seeing if those should just automatically be blocked type of thing. There's a lot of ways that you can start that's cost effective, but truly, start from the ground up with that pyramid of pain. Understand what indicators are happening. Are you blocking indicators? I've heard that one before. I was giving a talk about detection engineering and threat hunting, and I had a guy, he raised his hand at the end of my presentation. And he's like, I have a question. And I was like, okay, I guess it's time to ask questions. That's fine. And he was like, what if we don't block things? I was like, "What do you mean by we don't block things? Like, what are things to you? What does block mean to you?" And he goes, "Well, like they outsource all of their security to a security provider and they don't trust the security provider to make decisions." Which is
So
fine, whatever. You pay thousands and thousands of dollars to just like disregard opinions. They don't block any of the indicators because there was one time they also outservice their IT. There was one time their IT person had blocked like YouTube or something in the business. Like you would think like it froze over. People weren't happy. They weren't working. They're like, oh my gosh, why can't, like, when did YouTube get blocked? I have to return to office and now I can't watch my videos. And he's like, yeah, we can't block things and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, like there's things you can do. Like you have to have data to provide why it's bad. Cause I guarantee you no CEO is gonna be like, yeah, we're running like a Bitcoin mining service on our Active Directory completely fine, like just ignore that. Like, no, there's like a happy middle ground. And so I think providing like checks and balances is a good start. Like even blocking firewall categories that are categorized as phishing or hack tools or malicious, probably, or even command and control. These are things that probably should be blocked by the business and not just been like, oh yeah, it's great time out here, it's a free for all, wild wild west, hee haw.
I mean, it almost sounds to me that I'm trying to like wrap through like all of the things you've said over the last half hour or so that, you know, businesses are almost commoditizing and outsourcing a lot of it, right? There's outside providers, there's tools that can be managed by outside parties, and those individuals that are doing those things are really just kind of like operating the tools, and the threat hunter is more of like the seasoned expert that is not a
They
librarian,
know
but like,
they
but
know the
they're an
inside out.
investigative reporter, right? And they're an
Yeah,
investigative reporter, and they're asking the questions of like, what could we be doing different, or what should we be doing next? And it
yeah,
seems like that's hard to outsource, but that's also like, it's almost like you're a security strategist in some
mhm,
way. Maybe
yeah.
along those lines, it's, I don't know, like, what advice would you give to somebody that wants to become a threat hunter? Like, how do they get started just on that career track?
Yeah, I think about, like, the first time like, wanted to go hunting in the network, and I think it was because I was bored. I'm not gonna lie. I was just like, "What can I find that isn't being detected? What crazy thing can I find?" And I said that with a smile. I even, like, turned around to, like, my coworker, and I was like, "I'm gonna find something today." And he's like, "Why?" And I was like, "'Cause I woke up in a violent mood." You know? I had my 3 sodies, I'm ready. So,
You're
but, like,
ruining the
even
whole
today,
theme of being, like, overwhelmed and under-resourced when you've got all this time to just
it's
dabble.
as a person that loves dogs, there's a famous dog that says, "It's fine. We're fine. It's okay." But, like, when I kinda, like, started getting in the field many, many years ago, I say that like I'm, like, 200 years old, there wasn't a whole lot out there for, like, understanding how to find threats, understanding how to learn behaviors of threats. Like, you hear things about MITRE and whatnot, but it's just like, "Oh, okay, so you're learning how something behaves? It's bad. Like, what else do you need to know?" But then you're like, if it behaves with this in addition to this, that's really bad. And then you're like, that's really, really bad. So I always tell people, like, you got to start with the basics. You got to understand fundamentally how something works and behaves. If you're opening, and I feel like SOC analyst is just a good transition into threat hunting or detection engineers. And it's because, again, they know the lay of the land. And then if you're a SOC analyst or even just understanding the alerts, instead of going like taking that hash, throwing it at tool checkers like virus total to see if it's good and bad, that's not learning. That's not, in my opinion, being a true defender. That's the first steps. That's a foundational step, is to understand why something's bad or good. But then telling the story, because again, right, if you're a crime scene investigator, which is what our jobs are, what happened? How did it get there? What was the impact? Was there other victims or was there spread? Who else was involved with this? And then now you're kind of understanding how those behaviors work and how that attack chain completely flows through. And then when you start taking that and detonating that malware in a very safe way and is looking at that full scope, now you're talking about researching. And then that's where you're starting to pull behaviors out. So I always tell people, if you really, really want to learn this, there's a lot of good open source training out there. MITRE, like I said, has a very extensive training program. There's also a platform called Mad20 that has a lot to learn about threat hunting and detection engineering. They have different tiers. There's a free tier, and then there's pro tiers and stuff like that that can be a little costly, but you can have certifications and graduate certifications through their different training platforms. And it's hands on too. I think that's the huge plus with a lot of things. You can watch YouTube videos all day, but when you're hands on keyboard learning, it's very different. And then I always tell people, regardless if you're doing a try hack me lab, if you're doing a hack the box lab, any type of training, always have the thought in the back of your mind is, I'm learning this now, but how can I bring this back to my job? How is this beneficial back to my day to day? Maybe I learned about a new tactic. Okay. How does that look like in my environment? Can I even search it? Do we have logs to support this? And this is where you start really truly knowing the blind spots in your network, because again, that goes back to what I said in the beginning. I walk in every day assuming I'm breached. It's how am I going to find it today? And there's a lot of weight to that.
Yeah. I think, maybe for our audience members, I would recommend listening to this specific episode at least a few times and in slow motion because, Rianne, I think you've done a really good job of name dropping people and tools and resources and how to get into this particular path. Maybe shifting gears for our last question, since you already kind of teased about your AI agents a bit and whatnot, maybe looking into the future, are there any emerging trends or technologies that you would see impacting the future of threat hunting? Like what comes next?
Oh, man. I need another soda after this. I mean, Here's the thing. I teach college at night, and I talk to a lot of universities. I talk to a lot of high schoolers. I love AI. I do. My chat bot, he calls me pal. It makes me feel more important than dude or bruh, which is what some of my college students call me. So they're like, "Hey, bruh." I'm
Wow.
like, "Excuse me, that's Professor bruh." You
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Wow.
But, I tell them, I was like, "When you guys go into the real world for security," I was like, "I'm not gonna disencourage you to not use AI. I think it's important that you use AI, but just know how you use it, someone polar opposite of you is using it the same way." And especially now with how, the different versions are, I'm so proud that we're able to generate AI photos with 5 fingers that look normal. Like, we've come a long way here. And, and so I, um I tell people, I'm like, just like a phone, just like anything else, you can jailbreak it, meaning you can push the boundaries, you can remove the security mechanics. Is it legal? Absolutely not. It's not. At least here in the United States. I can't speak for other countries, but here in the United States, it's absolutely illegal. And you can, well, what I'm seeing now is that these threat actors, they're taking these AI agents, they're almost, in my opinion, Frankensteining them. So they might take some features of ChatGPT. They might take things that, Elon's promoting and they just fed it all of these code. And now you have an underground AI agent that's literally crafting malware on the fly because it doesn't have those security mechanics or boundaries. And so you can probably also sell AI as a malware service now. And people really don't think about like the trends and stuff with that. But that also comes with different levels of sophistication. We're probably
Oh,
gonna see a lot
100%.
more automated, clean phishing emails and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think, back in my day of working network operations, right? I think the
Keyboard typing days.
back back when we had keyboards. Yeah, I think a piece of malware that would get picked up by an antivirus product, it was based off of a static signature. And for the non-programmers in the audience, right, like there's like logical equivalents that are not necessarily the same signature, meaning you could take a file and run some mathematical process on it and get some kind of unique value of data, and it says this file is unique versus that. But like, if 1 + 1 = 2, but like 10 - 8 also equals 2. So functionally, you have the same program. It's still doing something to get to 2, as it's just a really contrived example. But when you look at the file in total, like it's now a different file. And I can see AI absolutely blowing up the ability for anyone that's looking at anything static or signature based, because the quick ability to regenerate something that works operationally but looks different. If the person that's looking at the scene, looking at all those log entries, like stuff's gonna just disappear or blow up. But either way, whichever way that flows is gonna be really bad for the defender that's not thinking proactively.
Yeah, and the good side of it all, right, if we're seeing, like, AI-written code for malware, it's probably written so lazily because AI did it that it's probably gonna be easier to reverse at that point, you know?
Yeah, yeah, probably. But I mean, it's kind of like, you see like the colloquial joke is like, these spyware companies that have, the spyware for your mobile phones, right? Like the
Yeah,
exploits change quite a bit, and that's where all the research and development goes into, because those are hard
yep.
and rare and expensive. Like the malware itself hasn't really changed because it doesn't need to, right? There's still no really good way of detecting it, which is kind of interesting. The tradecraft for post access is doesn't necessarily need to improve all the time for all things. All
Yeah,
right,
it'll be fun.
Reanna,
I'm excited for the next 5 years.
I'm sure you are. I've known you for a few years, and you're always excited. So I don't think anything's going to change.
Yay, bad things!
uh, last
Saudis!
last call, Rihanna. Where can people go to find out more about you, your work, or anything you mentioned today?
You can't find me. No, I'm kidding.
That is a lie. That is
No.
an absolute lie.
Yeah, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm super active on LinkedIn. I'm always doing something, it feels like. I love to hear from the communities as well. I've followed Evan very closely now. And that's just how you meet people. That's how you network. And I'm all a huge advocate for community network and network building. So I'm on LinkedIn. Please connect. You can find me at Reanna Schultz. I'm also on YouTube. My handle is CyberSpeak Labs. You can also look for Reanna Schultz on YouTube as well and find all of my YouTube shorts making fun of corporate. Lastly, find me on Blue Sky and X, Reanna Schultz on Blue Sky, and Cyber Reanna with one R on X. So I'm kind of all over. I'm very bad with OPSEC, so
You're
that's not a
participating in a
challenge for people
community.
listening, by the way.
Yeah. Awesome, man. I thank you so much. I had a really good conversation. I learned a lot. I hope the audience did as well. I think threat hunting is just this fascinating,
It's
elusive thing,
fascinating.
and I'm glad you're doing it on behalf of the industry.
Oh, thanks. Me and my sodies.
Cheers.
Cheers.